What if I told you one of the most brutal killers in history lived in a castle just like this? Deep in Eastern Europe, hidden behind fog and fear, stood a castle that people avoided even speaking about, not because of ghosts, but because of what was real. What happened inside these walls would go on to become one of the darkest legends ever recorded, and at the center of it was a woman no one could stop. Her name was Elizabeth Báthory, a noblewoman born into power, wealth, and influence. To the outside world, she was respected, but behind closed doors, whispers described something far more terrifying, because power like hers can hide anything. She had everything most people could never dream of. Elizabeth grew up surrounded by privilege, powerful family, endless wealth, a life where rules didn't apply the same way. In her world, control wasn't questioned, it was expected, and when no one questions you, things can get dangerous. But outside her world, reality looked very different. Families struggled, hunger was common, and when opportunity came, even if it seemed uncertain, people took it. Young girls were sent to work in noble houses, hoping for a better life. But some opportunities come at a deadly cost. The girls thought they were entering a new life. One after another, they arrived at the castle, promised work, promised safety, promised a future. But what they didn't know was that they were walking into something no one escapes. Because once those gates closed, everything changed. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The castle was quiet, too quiet. Servants spoke in whispers, doors stayed locked, and at night, strange sounds echoed through the halls. Sounds no one dared to explain. And then, people started noticing her behavior. Elizabeth wasn't like other nobles. Her temper was unpredictable, her punishments excessive, and her presence alone made people uneasy. Because behind her calm face, something darker was growing. Hidden beneath the castle, there were places no one talked about, rooms that weren't meant to be seen, and stories that were too terrifying to repeat. But the truth was starting to surface. Some girls never returned home. Families began to notice. Daughters disappeared, letters stopped, and those who survived refused to speak about what they had seen, as if silence was the only way to stay alive. But rumors started to grow. Whispers spread across villages, stories of cruelty, of obsession, of a woman who would go to unimaginable lengths to maintain her power, even if it meant losing her humanity. Eventually, someone took notice. A royal investigator was sent to uncover the truth. What he found would shake the foundations of power itself, because this wasn't just rumor anymore. When the doors finally opened, the truth began to emerge, and with it, a story so dark it would turn Elizabeth Báthory into a legend feared for centuries. But what they discovered inside was worse than anyone imagined. By the time authorities got involved, it was already too late. Rumors had spread too far to ignore. Missing girls, terrifying whispers, and a noblewoman no one dared accuse. So the crown sent a man powerful enough to uncover the truth, Count Georgi Thurzo, but even he wasn't prepared for what he was about to see. The night they entered the castle, under royal authority, the gates were forced open. Guards flooded inside, their torches cutting through the darkness. This time, the silence inside the castle would finally be broken, and what they found started immediately. Right there, in plain sight, in one of the rooms they found a girl, barely alive, broken, weak, still breathing. It was the moment everything changed, from rumor to undeniable reality, and she wasn't the only one. As they searched deeper, room after room revealed signs of violence, evidence of suffering. The castle wasn't just hiding secrets, it was filled with them, and the deeper they went, the worse it became. Then, they found what was hidden beneath the castle, hidden from the world, were chambers no one was meant to see. Cold, dark, silent, but filled with signs of unimaginable cruelty. This wasn't punishment, this was something else. And at the center of it all, Elizabeth Báthory stood calm. No panic, no fear, as if nothing was wrong, as if everything happening around her was completely normal. That reaction alone terrified them. Then the servants started talking. At first they hesitated, afraid, broken, but under pressure, the truth began to slip out. Stories of violence, of control, of a countess who demanded absolute obedience, and what they revealed kept getting worse. One confession changed everything. A servant described acts so disturbing, even the guards struggled to process them. This wasn't a single incident. This was repeated, systematic, planned, and it had been going on for years. The investigation uncovered something shocking. Witness testimonies began to stack up, dozens of accounts, some claiming numbers so high they were hard to believe, but the pattern was clear. This wasn't random, this was calculated. But here's the most disturbing part. Through it all, Elizabeth never confessed, never showed remorse. She remained silent, cold, untouchable, as if she believed she would never face consequences. And for a moment, it looked like she was right. Others weren't so lucky. Her accomplices were arrested immediately, interrogated, forced to face what they had done, and their testimonies would seal the fate of everyone involved. But Elizabeth's story would take a different turn. Instead of execution, Elizabeth Báthory was never publicly tried like the others. Instead, she was sealed inside her own castle, alone, isolated, hidden from the world she once controlled. But the biggest mystery still remains. How many victims were there? And what parts of this story were actually true? The number shocked everyone. Some witnesses claimed Elizabeth had over 600 victims, a number so horrifying it sounded almost impossible. Yet the accusation would follow her name for centuries. To the people of Europe, Elizabeth Báthory became more than a noble woman. She became a monster, a name whispered in fear across kingdoms. 650 victims. The accusation spread like wildfire, a number so massive, historians would later question whether it could even be real. The rumors grew darker with every retelling. Parents warned their daughters, servants vanished, and fear slowly consumed the kingdom. Some believed she was set up. Elizabeth was rich, extremely rich, and after her husband died, she controlled massive land and wealth. Some historians believe powerful men wanted her removed permanently, and accusations can become weapons. But even if parts were exaggerated, there's one thing most historians agree on. Something terrible happened inside that castle. Too many testimonies matched. Too many people disappeared, meaning the darkness was still real. But for ordinary people, the truth almost didn't matter anymore. To villagers, Elizabeth Báthory had already become something terrifying. A warning parents whispered about after dark, a monster born from fear itself. Her final years were spent alone. Locked away inside her own castle, Elizabeth slowly disappeared from the world. No public execution, no dramatic final speech, just silence. But death didn't end the story. Long after Elizabeth died, people still feared the castle. Stories continued spreading. Some claimed her spirit still haunted the halls where so many suffered. And legends like that never truly disappear. One thing is certain, whether monster or myth, the name Elizabeth Báthory became immortal, a story of power, fear, violence, and the terrifying line between truth and legend. Because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that might be real.